Good morning, and welcome to the virtual worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House of Provincetown, where we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and where we encourage each other on our spiritual search for truth and meaning. My name is Reverend Kate Wilkinson, and I am so glad that you have joined us this week. This Sunday is our Stewardship Sunday, which means it's a Sunday to celebrate all the ways that you support this congregation and this meeting house and keep it going, even in the midst of a pandemic. And we're also taking some time to celebrate how we keep each other going, too. So now, as I light our chalice here at the meeting house, I invite you to light a candle wherever you are. In that way, we can feel connected even while we are apart.
A Spark of Hope by Melanie Davis. If ever there were time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice.
Please join me now in affirming our covenant. Love is the spirit of this meeting house, and this is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This morning's reading is A Little Piece of Our Souls by Stephen Smith. Everywhere we go, we take our souls with us. And every time we meet someone, we wrap a little piece of our souls around them and pass it through them. All our lives, we weave our souls around and through everyone we meet, tying a complex, tangled web to the earth. This is who we are to the world around us. Each of us has 1,000, 1,000,000 tendrils of other souls wrapped around us and through us. And this is who we are to ourselves. Sometimes we need to grasp these tendrils for all we're worth just to keep ourselves here. Sometimes the tendrils snap and we can't weave anymore. But the million threads we have already woven remain, tangled messily about the earth. This is still who we are, and we aren't diminished. But it does leave a hole. You have wrapped your soul around me and through me 1,000, 1,000,000 different times. If I gather all these threads in my hands and hold tight, and if you hold on to all the threads that have ever pierced your soul, wrapping them around you like a protective cloak, anchoring you to the ground, maybe the threads won't snap and you can keep weaving a little longer. If it snaps anyway, I will take all the threads you have left me and wrap them around a spool that I will carry with me always.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we cry. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these vibes. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
I am a huge public television fan. Shows like Masterpiece Theater and Mystery have been a staple in my life since I was a little girl. And shows like Downton Abbey and the Great British Baking Show have been such balms to my soul in the midst of a chaotic world. Sometimes, when our own political system feels particularly cruel, it's nice to just watch someone calmly making a 3-tiered cake, and then seeing their competitor joyfully helping them to carry it to the judging station and giving them a little thumbs up of hope. If you too are a fan, then you know that before every show, the announcer says something like, "This programming is made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you." Our own congregation is supported in much the same way, by individual contributions. And now that we are worshiping online, I too can say this programming is made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. And I do. I thank you so much. Each fall, as we enter into a new year as a congregation, our stewardship team gets together to pick a theme for our pledge campaign. This year, we have chosen, "And so we rise." There are so many obstacles to overcome in 2020 and moving into 2021. This pandemic, which has devastated our economy, changed our way of life, and taken the lives of over 200,000 people in this country alone. The current political climate, which has become completely toxic. We're not just disagreeing on fiscal policies, we're actually debating human rights. The last 4 years have uncovered a deep racism that many people believed we had moved beyond in this country, but in reality was simply buried, waiting for permission to be aired publicly again. And our environment becomes an even greater concern as climate change wreaks havoc through rising waters and uncontrollable wildfires, even as we do away with environmental protections in favor of big business. It is these large and overwhelming themes that we are responding to each and every day. And again, we rise. We respond. We speak out. We protest. We persevere. We hold up the values of our faith, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. In the face of illness and a global pandemic, in the face of global warming, in the face of bullying, rights being denied or taken away, women and people of color and people with disabilities being mocked and targeted and put down, we rise. As Michelle Obama famously said, "When they go low, we go high." And as a congregation, we have faced some really tough challenges and risen to them. When our building was flooded, We mopped up the mud and wrung out the water and rebuilt our downstairs. When our Black Lives Matter sign was defaced, we cleaned it off and ordered a new one and doubled down on our monthly vigils for racial justice. When faced with this pandemic, we closed our doors, but opened our imaginations and together figured out how to move worship online, how to remain connected through Zoom and drive-by rituals and sending each other postcards. We are such a resilient and powerful congregation. We can face anything together. And I know that this is what our stewardship team meant when they chose this year's theme. And so we rise. But you know what? Every time I hear that phrase, and every time I sat down to write this sermon, do you know what I thought of? I didn't think of rising above or rising to the occasion or raising the bar. Do you know what I thought of? I thought about getting out of bed. I thought about getting out of bed and how I don't want to sometimes. I thought about all those mornings this year when I opened my eyes to a new day, and it suddenly came rushing back to me what world we are living in, and how I can't see my friends or hug my family or gather with all of you on Sundays, and how the news is always bad, and how everyone is always shouting, and how a lot of days when I open my eyes, I just want to pull the covers back over my head. And how if I were not a minister, if I were not your minister, if I were not woven deeply into the fabric of a congregation and a town and a community that needs me, that is exactly what I would do. Pull the covers back over my head. But I am a minister. I am your minister. I am woven deeply into the fabric of this congregation, this online gathering of kindred spirits and seekers, this faith. This morning, when I wanted to pull the covers over my head, I remembered that I needed to pick up a birthday cake for a homebound member. And yesterday, when I wanted to pull the covers back over my head, I remembered that I was going to do an outdoor visit with someone who hadn't had company since March. And the day before that, when I wanted to pull the covers over my head, I remembered that I needed to text someone who was going into surgery that day. And the day before that, I needed to officiate a wedding of two people who decided that life is short and uncertain, and why wait to celebrate love? And the day before that, I needed to go to an elder's home with my laptop and show them last week's service because they couldn't access it on their own. And the day before that, I needed to facilitate a Zoom racial justice meeting to support the people of color in our community who have been harassed and made to feel unsafe in our town. And the day before that, I needed to get up and write a check to cover someone's rent who lost their job during this pandemic. And the day before that, I remembered that it was the day we were going to bless our animals. You know, I can't imagine that I am the only one who has the urge to pull the covers back over my head. I imagine that you also feel that way some days, maybe even most days, and that you also are drawn out of bed not because the sun is shining or your enthusiasm for the world is beckoning you to rise, but because you too are woven deeply into the fabric of community. This connection of kindred spirits and seekers, this faith. I imagine that you feel compelled to get up because you have promised to drop off soup to someone who is ill, or have a walk planned with someone who is grieving. You have promised to attend a committee meeting on Zoom, or it's your turn to lead the evening meditation circle and you have to prepare. You need to write back to that friend who sent you an email yesterday. You have a message to listen to from someone who cares about you. And so we are drawn back into a world that needs us, that we care about, and that cares about us in return. We are not alone. And so we rise. I don't want to underestimate the energy, stamina, and hope it takes these days to rise in the morning. Not to rise to every occasion, but just to rise out of bed. It is a feat. It is a feat that we accomplish not for ourselves, but for each other. If you are having a hard time rising today, remember, someone needs you. My colleague and friend, Reverend Dr. Rebecca Savage, writes, I am a steward of hope. So often we can slip easily into conversations and endless news cycles that focus on dire calamity, and we feel overwhelmed, crushed, and dispirited. Yes, there is much wrong with our world, and so much has already been lost. The yes and endures, though. We do have time to make changes today. We do have time to practice courageous love today. We do have time to revolutionize how we live out our faith today. This is how I serve as a steward of hope, she says, by remembering and reminding others that today can be for the good, one breath at a time, one act of love and forgiveness at a time, one act of defiance and change at a time. We don't know exactly what the year ahead will look like, but I take great strength in the knowledge that we will be facing it together, that we need one another, that with all that is going wrong with the world, there are also so many things going right, so much tenderness, love, growth, connection. You model that to me. You remind me when I forget. And I am here to remind you when you forget. We are held by the fabric of connections, calling us back into the world again and again. And so we rise. This service, this community of love and hope, this reason for getting up in the morning is made possible by contributions from viewers like you. And I thank you. Amen. And blessed be.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we cry. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. It is time now. It is time now that we cry. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.